Okay, we're recording. Thanks.
Take two. I call to order a special meeting of the Warrenville Public Library District Board of Trustees. Today is Friday, December 4th. It's 5:31 p.m. I'd like to take roll call at this, oh, no, sorry. This meeting is held as a virtual meeting, given that the Illinois governor has declared the coronavirus pandemic a disaster. I have determined that an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent because of this disaster. And now I will take roll call. Trustee Richardson.
Here.
Trustee Richardson.
Present.
Trustee Stahl.
Present.
Trustee Warren. I can't hear
You
him,
can't hear.
but I see him. Rick, you're on mute. But I see
Sorry.
you.
Present.
Present, thank you. Just to make sure, Trustee DeRocher is absent. Trustee Lazan notified the board that she would not be able to attend due to work obligations, and Trustee Pika is also present. Due to Trustee, oh, Barbara is joining the meeting. She is now present, thank you. So we do have a quorum. Hello? Is she good?
I think so.
Barbara, you can hear us, correct?
Correct.
Thank you very much. Due to Trustee Lazan's absence, we do need to appoint a secretary pro tem. Is there a volunteer?
I
I'll
will
do it.
volunteer.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know who I heard first.
Rick can do it. 'Cause I
Okay.
believe it's
So how about you start a motion? I need a motion.
I move that Rick Warren is a secretary pro tem in the absence of Sandy Lou.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
All seconds. Oh,
Heather, was that you for the second? It's hard to, please
Yes.
again, if you do your name.
Sorry.
Okay, and because we are virtual, we do need a roll call vote. So Trustee DeRocher,
Present.
this is a motion to appoint.
Oh,
Rick-
it's a vote. Sorry. I apologize.
What kind of-
Aye.
Trustee Richardson,
Aye.
Trustee Ritzika,
Aye.
Trustee Stahl,
aye.
Trustee Warren,
Aye.
Trustee Pika also votes aye, motion passes. Rick Warren will be our secretary pro tem for this evening. I now need a motion for an approval of the agenda, please.
Trustee Stahl moves to approve the agenda.
Rick Warren, seconds.
Motion was made by Trustee Stahl and seconded by Trustee Warren. Trustee DeRocher,
Aye.
Trustee Richardson,
Aye.
Trustee Ritzika,
Aye.
Trustee Stahl,
Aye.
Trustee Warren,
Aye.
Trustee Pika also votes aye. The agenda is approved. First item on the agenda will be public comments. And at this time, we are going to entertain comments by any of the public, either those on the phone or staff members or those who have been invited to attend the meeting. As a point of fact, the board has all received and read the letter that was submitted to the board. So there will be no need to reread that letter, but we do want to allow significant time to any of the persons who wrote the letter or signed the letter or anyone else on the call other than the board members to make any comments. I would just ask that if you wish to make a comment, you state your name and give us time to recognize you. So other than board members, is there anyone on the call who would like to make any comments?
I will. I'm Julie. I'm a
Hi,
youth services.
Julie, thank you for coming.
I'm a youth services librarian. I want to sort of add in some more about my position and intentions in signing the letter. I read it and decided to sign it because I thought that Jen made really good points that should be a part of the conversation moving forward based on the current circumstances. I do also really want to clarify though, I think I misinterpreted a little bit whether Paul was standing behind it. I'm not sure, I can't speak to that. But I want to make sure it's clear that I absolutely trust and respect Sandy's judgments in these matters. I just think that these points are really valid and helpful in the discussion. I hope that helped.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments. Is there anyone else on the call who wants to make comments?
Mandy, did you want to say something? Okay. You know what, we cannot hear Mandy.
Here comes Mandy.
Hello. Hi.
Oh, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay, great. I'm Mandy, the Team Services Associate. I pretty much would like to just kind of second what Julie said. My signing of the letter was also because I also read the letter and agreed that Jen made some good points that I think should be considered in discussion. My intention was that this letter would be used in further conversation, further decision making, moving forward, because I know that all of these decisions are very difficult to make and difficult to sort through. So yeah, it was really for me more of just like a thing to consider. So yeah, that's just kind of seconding what Julie said for sure. But Jen made some really good points, so I wanted to support her that way. And that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you for those comments. We appreciate hearing them. Sandy, you're able to tell if there's others?
Yep, Jen, I saw you unmuted yourself.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jen Moore. I drafted the letter and sent it out to the rest of the staff to see if anyone else was interested in also kind of bringing up some points. I just wanted to say that I came across something in the news in the past couple of days that I feel like really got at what I was trying to say and maybe couldn't find the right words for. And that's the discussion of a risk budget, that everybody knows you can't be perfectly safe all the time, but you can, spend your risk in one way or another. If you have to go to work, then you don't do voluntary things. If you have to go to the gym, then you don't go out to eat. And that also applies to a community at the same time. If bars and restaurants are open, then something else has to close. If schools are going to be open, then something else has to close. And I think that was kind of what I was thinking of in addressing kind of the library's position, that we are in a position where we can close the building. And so it seemed to me that serving the community means that closing the building is also kind of opening up some space in that risk budget for some of the other things in the community that can't necessarily be closed. So yeah, I just wanted to bring up that kind of framing.
Okay, thank you for your comments, John. We appreciate hearing them. Sandy, is there anything else?
Is there anyone else, I guess, who's a panelist who wanted to speak, say anything? Cynthia, I noticed you've unmuted yourself. Did you want to say something?
Yes, I did. I just wanted to speak to the board's declaration of essential services, and basically just speak to my personal experience during the entire pandemic, and recognize the privilege that I had in having access to the building, even in the early days when other people didn't, and having access to things like the copier, the fax, the scanner, in order to take care of, life stuff with, estate planning and scholarship applications and FAFSA and, just all of those things that are just really essential to people's lives over and above circulation of materials. So I guess I just wanted to, state my belief that we are providing essential services to the community.
Okay. I have to share with everyone, the holidays is beginning outside and the bagpipers are practicing their drums.
They're probably going to be parading by.
So we're going to see a parade coming right by
I
here.
had to get permission to park in front of the library. They
So-
stopped me down to Andy, we're gonna let me through.
If you hear drum beats, I'm not taking on a new hobby yet. Anyone else? Can you tell Miss Sandy?
I don't see anyone else unmuted from staff, so. And I did check, we did not receive any comments through email.
Okay. So then we will move on to new business, which will be a review of the comments from the library staff on operations during the pandemic. The first thing I'm going to do is read a letter that was received from Trustee Lazan, who, as I stated earlier, was unable to join us this evening. But there's going to be a lot of commentary and a lot of things to be said. So I think the easiest way to do this and to not make sure everything can be heard and everyone has an opportunity to speak is I will go through the board trustees alphabetically, give each one of you time to speak if there's anything you'd like to add to the conversation. I'll ask that everybody just take notes, because then we'll go a second time around where you can make additional comments. And then at the end, we'll have any other comments or questions. Then we can do a raise of hands and get those. And then we will give Sandy time to offer any comments she may have. So based on that, I will read this letter. It's dated December 3rd, 2020, and I hope everyone can hear me. I am speaking as loud as I can. It is to the Warrenville Public Library Board, staff request to close the library building. This letter is in regard to the undated and unsigned letter mailed to the Warrenville Public Library Board email address, trustees@warrenville.com, Tuesday, November 24th, 2020 at 5:03 p.m. by library staff member Jen Moore, Adult Services Librarian. I am writing this letter because I unfortunately have a schedule conflict and will not be able to attend the special meeting called to address this issue, but want to make the other board members aware of my position on this issue. There are several considerations regarding this request. One, Executive Director Whitmer and the management team have done a marvelous job of making sure that everyone in the community and the staff remains safe during this pandemic by keeping up to date on all CDC and state of Illinois directives and guidelines and adjusting accordingly. Two, the library district is an essential service to the community and the staff are essential workers. Three, at the beginning of the pandemic, the library district was ordered by the governor to close the library building. That order was later lifted and the library district is no longer under a shutdown order. Four, at the beginning of the pandemic, there was a lack of knowledge on how to protect the staff and the community from contracting the virus, and there was a severe shortage of PPE. There is now considerably more knowledge about how to deal with the virus, and the library district has an adequate stockpile of PPE and has taken several measures at significant expense to fight the spread of the virus in the library building. Five, during the pandemic, as a result of the extraordinary measures taken by the executive director and her management team, no staff members have contracted the virus. Six, it is unreasonable to expect the community who pay taxes so that the library district can provide essential services to accept the library district unilaterally deciding to stop providing essential service and furthermore continuing to use taxpayer dollars to fully compensate all of the library district staff pay and benefits. Seven, if a staff member does not want to continue working for the library district during the pandemic, The library district very reasonably offers them the options of using using accrued paid leave, FMLA, requesting an unpaid leave of absence, or resigning. I am speaking from experience as I am a high-risk essential worker, so I understand the risk of working with the public on a daily basis. For these reasons, I think that the staff members who included their names in this updated and unsigned letter should be offered the option of rescinding their request or choose one of the options in 7 above. Sincerely, Sandra Lazan. Okay, we will say that that is Sandy's comment. And as I said, we'll go alphabetically through the trustees. So Trustee DeRocher, the floor is yours, please. And I need to breathe.
I don't really have a lot to add. I am wondering if, are we meant to have a discussion or are we just offering comments?
Offer comments first. We'll go around again, and then we will have time to talk. But we'll get all the comments out first, if that's people have them.
Okay,
Well,
well,
questions or discussion points, we'll just take statements or commentary right now.
okay, well, so I just want to comment that I was surprised to receive this communication in the way that it came forward to the trustees without having already been brought to Director Whitmer first. I was surprised about that. I'm very interested in hearing the concerns and thoughts of each of the employees. I wouldn't characterize this as an unsigned letter because it definitely clearly shows who's put their name on the letter. So
Again,
I'm not
those
sure.
are Trustee Lazan's comments. So.
Yeah, I'm just responding to that comment. I'm not sure why that's commented on. I'm very interested to hear the thoughts of the employees. The safety of the employees is a good concern of mine, but so is the ability for the library to continue to offer services in the most safe way we can, if we feel that's the way that we should go. I personally would like to see the library continue to function in an open status of some kind. I think that's enough for me to say now.
And you'll have another opportunity.
Okay.
Next up would be Trustee Richardson.
I didn't expect to jump from D to R.
Well, we already heard from Sandy Lazan via the letter, so you're next.
I think I said, already a few things, Sandy. I would love to see us reach some kind of a viable compromise. I think our library workers are incredibly valuable. I think we have to be super careful in using that word essential, or it means nothing. So I think that's a word I wouldn't throw around necessarily. I would like to find some way of doing both, as Barbara said, keeping them safeguarded, and not just safeguarded, but comfortable.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Ritzika?
Hi, Trustee Rizika. In March, when we had the complete state closed down, did not know about the pandemic and the facts actually. And we were afraid. There was a lot of fear and we really didn't know what to do. So we did close the library, but for the best interest of the community and the workers. But now, with the second wave that they're talking about for December, January, February, we know more facts about COVID and people maybe getting a case of COVID. And I did some research and found that the younger people in their 30s, 40s, and younger, possibly 50s and even 60s, did not have, if they got COVID, and I know some people that got COVID. I have people that I know personally that had COVID, and they had a headache and a sore throat. It was nothing as bad as it was in March and April when people were passing away. So I think in this retrospect that I don't think that it's going to be as severe in some cases as we think. And it's very important for the library to continue and remain open. And I would like the staff to maybe realize it is not as severe as it was when the pandemic first started and we were afraid. Yes, we're all human and we all have emotions, and we can get upset easily when we think that something can happen. But here at the library, the numbers are lower. I don't think we're going to get the rush in the past like we have at Christmas time, because the numbers are essentially lower. There's that word you don't want to use, Jill. So I think it's important that we keep the staff knowledgeable and healthy, using their masks. I know the library did extra work with setting up more screens around the desk and the front circulation desk that people have to wear their masks at all times in the library. So, and wash their hands. I think that it will work out fine, and no one has got COVID on the staff. So I think we're safe, the library is safe, the people coming into the library are safe, and the library should function as it has always done in the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Stoll, your comments, please.
Okay, first of all, I would like to commend the staff for bringing forward these concerns, even though it didn't seem to be discussed with the management first and going through Director Whitmer. I'd also like to really commend the staff that Sandy made me aware has provided some of the solutions to some of the concerns that were raised. The other thing that I would like to say is that I work also for a taxpayer-funded office, and we never closed. We did go down to half staff to help protect the staff as sort of a team. One team would work one week, the other team would work the next week. We had a constitutional mandate that we had to stay open. We could not deny the people access to the court system for orders of protections, for anything else that was deemed an emergency. So I feel that we as the library district hold a public trust. We do not have the option to say just use the doomsday, which is turn off the lights and lock the doors. If we do that, then I feel that we owe the taxpayers of the public library district a refund or a rebate of their taxing dollars that they've paid us. The other thing that I feel is, again, I work for a large office. We have had employees that have been infected with COVID, that have shown up to work and have infected other employees. So at the same time, that our management team has made sure that we are aware of that and that we take extra precautions in terms of wearing our mask all day, no matter where our station is, that we do not congregate anywhere, and that, again, we have hand sanitizer, we have wipes to wipe down our stations. There are stations that are separated from the public by plexi, which it looks like our library has. But the other thing I would like everybody to consider is it is not something that by being open, we are saying that it is okay, that it is safe. However, we are providing lifelines to people. Not everybody has the option to have a computer at home, to have a scanner, to have a fax machine. These are services that most other places in the community charge a fee for. Not everybody can afford to buy the books they want to read, the DVDs that they want to watch, or the CDs or tapes that they want to listen to. So I agree that we have essential services, and it seems like we still have people coming into the library to use them. We are limiting the capacity, which I think is a good thing. But as to a certain extent, we are seeing an invisible problem here that when people are cut off from these services, there was a huge spike in the number of suicides when we choose to just cut these services off. So to a certain extent, everybody has to be responsible here, that if they are not feeling well, that they do not come into the library. And again, as has been pointed out over the months, yes, people have not been wearing their masks properly, but I believe that the staff in the library has been able to help the community with that. So I know I was kind of wordy, but I also had an aunt that died from COVID. So believe me, I have a lot of, I'm not quite sure what I have a lot of, but I want to thank the staff again for bringing it to our attention. But I'd also, again, commend the staff highly that chose to help solve or resolve some of these issues.
Thank you. Trustee Warren? There he is.
I'll unmute. There we go.
Thank you.
I would commend the librarians and all the technicians, service people, and employees of the library for taking on a sometimes arduous task. It seems that the burden tends to fall on the public-facing frontline people, and these are designated as essential services. And these services make life possible for all of us. So Warrenville has a large contingency of the frontline public-facing people, both as residents and as library employees. It's essential services. Library serves in providing these essential services, the library serves its own. Some of the public that we serve have less money and fewer resources to manage their choices and live their lives. People rely on the library. It's bigger than the building that houses it, and they have services that are necessary that we don't necessarily all have in our personal possession, but we have access to them through the library, and faxes and copying and computers and the books and all the sources of information that are related to all that are available at the library. And the library itself, by being open, provides a service while operating in a safe manner, as safe as it can be, and sometimes in exceeding the minimum. So by serving other people while doing it in a safe manner, they model good behavior and help make others aware of how to carry on and do their services in a like manner. So again, it helps us all carry on, and it all helps us to get through this. We will get through it. We're coming up with a vaccine, we're getting herd immunity, and there are, I guess, irreversible dangers to closing down in a lockdown. It may come to that point, in which case then we'll have to close down. But other than that, some people are not able to work. They don't get the salaries that they normally get or their wages that they normally get. And there's less and less non-risk laden positions open at this time of year. Most of them are seasonal, indoor type things. So I hope that we can come to a workable relationship and decision on how to proceed going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not going to repeat anything that was said because most everything that was said would have been on my list, but I do want to take the opportunity to thank all the staff at the library for all their efforts and everything that has been done in the last 8 months for the community. I think that deserves repeating. At this point, there may be, I know there's some questions, and Barbara DeRocher, I know you have some. Are there any other comments that you would like to make? I'll just run through the group very quickly based on the comments of your fellow trustees. So other than your questions, Barbara, any other statements you'd like to make? Because then we'll open it up for questions. You're on mute, but I'm hearing
Sorry about that.
no problem.
I guess I just want to state that I've been very much in tune with the news this week, and the news is bad. And I think that we really have to keep that in mind. The news is going to get worse. So that's all I want to say.
Trustee Richardson, any other comments you'd like to add to the discussion?
Yeah, I'm not sure where it cut me off before anyway, so I apparently had the wrong internet on and dropped out. Yeah, I would kind of echo what Barb said. Remind everyone on the board, we are not physicians, so our opinion on what's going on is not fact. And what's going on is that it is far worse than it was in March. It is not better. It's way worse. So we do need to remember that.
Trustee Rizika.
I feel at this point in time, my vote is for the library to stay open. I'm aware of the facts. I read them every day, the statistics. I feel that, well, maybe I shouldn't say right, I think it's passing, but I'm in favor of the library to remain open at this point in time.
Okay. Trustee Stoll, any other additional comments you'd like to put to the table?
I agree with Cindy. I think at this point that we need to stay open because based on what Sandy said, that if one of those situations happens, if we go back to a stay at home, if the DuPage County Health Department issues a mandate or specific guidance is issued by IDBH for public libraries, City of Warrenville issues a local directive, or federal government issues a lockdown order or guidance specific to libraries. At that point is when I think that we need to take additional steps. Or again, if it's proven that somehow that we're a hotspot. Otherwise, as long as we are aware and are being vigilant and not relaxing our guard in terms of watching our distance, wearing a mask, using hand sanitizer, wiping down stations when after use. I mean, there is no way to prevent any and all diseases at this point. You are always running a risk, whether it's the common cold, whether it's the flu, or anything else.
I think are you done, Heather?
Yes, I am, sorry.
Thank you. Trustee Warren, any further comments for the group?
I don't believe so. No, I don't have any further comment.
Okay, that said, I'd like to go back to Barbara DeRocher's questions of the folks who wrote the letter. I will just let you ask your questions, Barbara, again, please.
Well, I do have some questions that have to do with that, and then I have some that are really directed more towards some information gathering, and I'd like to kind of start there.
Please proceed.
Sandy, could you give us an idea about, because different libraries are taking, you know, different actions. Could you give us an idea about, you know, how many libraries in our area, or the libraries that are in part of Swan, or I'm not even sure what benchmark to use, but how common is it for the libraries to be staying open versus offering only curbside, for instance? Is that something we even know?
Yes, so earlier this week, I checked the Rails website. I did not check it today. I checked for libraries in DuPage County. And I believe the public libraries in DuPage County, it was probably about 47% had gone back to curbside, and then the rest were still open as we are. A similar model, allowing people into the building to browse the collections, use computers, use the copier, fax, scan station, while also offering a curbside option for those who are interested. So I would say it's pretty evenly divided, and a lot of it depends on the specific community. So some of it depends upon if it's a city library, they may be following guidelines that are enforced throughout all branches of city government. If it's a smaller library, for instance, Winfield Library has completely closed. They are only accepting returns at this time through at least December 15th. That is because I believe more than half of their staff are in high-risk population groups. So they have less than 15 staff members. So they simply do not have the staff to operate at this time. So I think it's divided. I would say of the 50% that have, if they're not closed like Winfield, the majority of those, that other half that have taken a step back, they've gone back to curbside service.
Well, I guess my stance is that at the very least, we should be offering curbside. I wouldn't, but that would essentially take care of the request that's in the letter, which is to close the building to the public. I guess I just, I'd like to hear from Jen, maybe, why you decided to approach the board with this and not Sandy.
This is Jen. I am sorry, basically, I don't have a great answer to that. I had been in some communication with Paul about the safety measures that we were working on and kind of my stance on things. And he had indicated that it was Sandy and the board's decision. And I think I just unthinkingly cut out part of that equation, and I apologize.
Okay, well, that at least clarifies that. Thank you, Jen. So that's really all my questions. I guess what I'd like to do is have a chance to discuss whether we as a group feel that the concerns that were brought here could lead to some other mitigations as opposed to closing the doors to the public, or if we just want to keep things status quo.
We will get to that. I just want to make
Okay.
sure there's no other questions from anyone on the call. And I also would like to give Sandy Whitmer an opportunity to speak before we move forward.
Okay.
So at this point, I'd ask if there are any other comments, questions from either members of the board, those on the call, management at the library, anything else that you want to bring forward? Otherwise, I will turn the floor over to Director Whitman.
Okay, please. I just want to reiterate, again, as the trustees have said, just to thank all of the staff. I don't think that we would be in a position and still be operating if it wasn't for our staff carrying out their jobs in a safe manner. But not only that, I know that all of you are very cautious, not only when you're at work, but also when you're at home and you're out and about in the community. So I want to thank all of you for doing what you can, not only to protect yourselves, but to also take care of all of the people that you're working with. I appreciate that more than any of you will ever know. My goal here is to provide services to our community. That's always been the part of being a librarian that I've loved the most, making a difference in people's lives. And I think, as Cynthia pointed out, there are people in this community who don't have access to services that many of us simply take for granted. I don't know if you've ever had a medical issue. Most physicians' offices, many of them anyway, only take communication via fax. I think some have started to loosen up on that, but I know there are people who use our fax services all the time because it's required. We have many people who right now are trying to apply for unemployment. And sometimes they have to communicate, whether by computer or fax. Sometimes that's the only way they can get their documentation out to where they need it to go. I know that we have some older people who come to use the library, use their computers, because that's the only way they have to communicate with their family via email or check in with them. And I know that maybe you don't feel that that's an essential service, but I think if you ask some of those residents what they would consider an essential service, it is, as Heather mentioned, a lifeline for them. We are their lifeline to stay connected. And that is really, I think, an important role that we play in the community. And I understand that there are concerns, you know, about the risks. Jen, I really like that term you use, you know, kind of a risk thing. And everything that I'm doing now, I think everything every one of us is doing comes with some risk, and we're asking if the reward is worth the risk. And for me, helping this community and playing an important part in people's lives, for me, it's worth the risk. And I understand for some of you, it may not be worth the risk. I also want to reiterate, I think someone kind of alluded to the fact that, you know, I am here for you to share your concerns with. I know sometimes those conversations can be difficult. Jackie sometimes says it may feel to some of you like you're going to the principal's office. And I understand that I've been in that position too. But I hope you know that at least I will hear you out. We may not agree, and things may not come to the conclusion that you would like to see. But I did jot down some examples of things that we've actually done because staff has asked us to in this pandemic. The reason that our desks are surrounded by plexiglass is because that's what staff wanted to do. That's what they said would make them feel comfortable. So we did that. Last week, Diana mentioned, maybe 2 weeks ago now, Diana mentioned that it would be really nice to have an additional piece of plexiglass at the greeter stand to kind of cut people from coming at you sideways. That is coming. That's one of the things that Lee is building right now. We've started to give masks out to people who don't have them. That came from a staff suggestion. There are many times the managers can tell you that I've asked, Is it time for us to merge our teams? And the managers say, no, we need to stay in these bubbles. So everybody, that's another reason we kind of feel safe coming to work. And just recently, I know, Jen, you mentioned in your letter the concern about when we're offline and the self-checks aren't available. What you may not have known is that staff at the member services desk had already asked, because they were thinking about it and thinking creatively and trying to problem solve, they've asked to have a barcode scanner placed on the opposite side of the plexiglass. So yes, people will be standing at that desk, probably maybe 5 foot away from the staff, but with a section of plexiglass, and the patrons will be able to scan their own barcode. We won't be handling any materials. So please, I just want all the staff on this call to know, if you have any concerns or you have any suggestions or solutions to make things safer at the library, bring them to your manager or bring them to me, and we can certainly discuss them and see what we can do to make those things work. And then 2, if you do not feel safe working and you feel that you need some relief from your duties, there are options for you. You can come to us and we can talk to you about them, those options. I guess that's really all I have to say.
I would like to add that every staff person at the Warrenville Library is very valuable to the library. Every staff person is creative, brings ideas and new ways for the library to progress. So at this point, we really don't want to lose any of our staff people. They're very valuable to the library, and we honor their thoughts and ideas, but we care about your safety, of course. And like Rick Warren said, we're just going to have to wait and see each week if the governor does maybe do the state close down again. But we are on tier 3, and I think that everyone wants to move forward in this situation. So staff people, thank you for being valuable to the library, and we care about you.
Are there any questions or comments regarding Sandy's report?
Can I just add too, I know, Jill, you mentioned none of us are physicians, and you are correct. And that's why I'm relying on, the guidelines that are put out by the Illinois Department of Public Health. And I know that Jen disagrees with my decision to use the retail guidelines, but I'm doing that because our services really mimic a retail store. In a store, people go in, they buy something, they leave. And probably 95% of our library use mimics those transactions. So that's why I've chosen to stick with the retail guidelines. And I really don't see, I think we're requiring people to wear masks when they come in the library. So I'm having a hard time, other than computer use, because I know we're allowing people to stay for an hour, and maybe we need to pull back on that of the time they're allowed to stay in the library. But I don't see how our services truly are all that different from a person going into a clothing store, buying a pair of jeans and leaving the store. It's, to me, that's a comparable transaction. So
Saturday night, I was in Naperville to see the Christmas lights. And I walked around downtown with my family, and the stores allowed 5 people in the store at a time. And some stores, depending on square footage, allowed 7 people into the store. So they are opening up, whereas in March and April, things were closed. So they are trying to move forward.
This
Okay.
is Cynthia.
Hi, Cynthia.
I just had another comment about the technology, a detail that Sandy didn't mention. was about 2 weeks ago, we actually reduced the number of computers that we have available. So we currently only have 2 in each section, and the computer lab is self-service only, no staff assistance. And at the other 2 areas, we are able to provide assistance, but because of the way that we've arranged it, staff can still be on the other side of plexiglass in order to help someone. So we have taken even some additional steps to, reduce our exposure and reduce the congestion at the computer areas.
I have a question for Cynthia or for the staff. With Sandy bringing up the issue of possibly reducing the computer time, do we have an average of what the people are? I mean, I know that maybe some people are staying the full hour, but are most of them staying, say, a shorter length of time? That doing that would seem like a reasonable accommodation?
We did pull a report, and I know that before we reduced the number of computers. So I believe that most people are staying a shorter period of time. But, just as far as total computer use, I think over, was it the course of, sorry, I forget the time frame, but the most that any particular computer was used was 13 times, and I can't remember if that was actually over the course of a week. So out of 36 open hours, one particular computer was only used 13 times. So we may have people that are coming in and staying for an hour, but we don't have all 6 computers, or most of the time, even 2 of the computers in an area being used. So there's definitely a lot of high turnover, but we've not, to my knowledge, reached capacity to where anybody's actually waiting for a computer at those, with the reduction to the 6 stations.
And I would just add to that. I know we don't have those statistics with us right now, but if I recall, the majority of uses at the computer station were short term. I would say 20 minutes or less, and then there were maybe 10 to 15% used anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. So the majority of uses are those short term uses. And I suspect, if it aligns with what's happening in other libraries, those are people who are coming in to either send an email quickly or to print a document. And this week, I think, in yesterday's e-news, there was right? Am I saying this right? We had an article about remote printing that's available. Yes. So people can log on to their computer at home or their phone and send a print job here to the library, and they can show up and just retrieve it from the print station. And another thing that we've done in the last week is we have actually decided, the team and I, to waive all printing costs temporarily due to COVID. So there's no cash management, there's no credit card use, and it should speed up that transaction. It's copying also is free right now. And that sets us up for the possibility of offering curbside printing, which is something that I've asked Paul and his staff to work out some procedures for. So again, that would mean, hopefully, I think, fewer people coming fully into the building. It would be a convenience for those people who need that service if they have a computer at home. But they prefer not to come fully into the building.
So if we went to curbside, then really the only service that we would not be providing then is for people to, say, fax, or for people to use the computer then. Is that correct?
No, so our next version of curbside, we took into consideration the fact that you've identified essential services to include computer, fax, copy. And so we would have one computer station for very short term, probably a 10 or a 15-minute express computer station for use. And we can also move the fax machine and the copier into a position that would be closer to the front door. So we would maintain those services just in a different fashion, yeah.
One of the things on the agenda this evening, and sorry, I don't know if we're done.
No, that's fine.
Is a review of the essential library services. And I think we need to visit that quickly before we make any decisions on open, close, response. And the May 20th meeting of the board, and I think you received this in your packet, the 3 services that we agreed to allow the staff to implement were the return of library materials, access to library materials, and access to public computers, copier, scan, and fax stations. So I think at this point, there should be some time for discussion on if those are the 3 essential services we wish to continue to direct the library staff to execute, or if we need to modify those. So I'll open the floor to commentary from the trustees.
I agree that we should continue to offer these essential services.
I do too.
Is there any commentary about modifying them?
Not at this time.
All right, well,
Not at
we
this
don't,
time.
we don't need a motion. We just need an affirmation so the staff is aware of our direction on how to proceed. The other issue on the agenda is to review the current status of library operations. I think to some degree, unless I'm misunderstanding what that is, we have already entered into that discussion and spent some time on it. However, if there's any other comments to that specific point, now would be the time to voice your concerns or comments.
I have
think-
one. Go ahead.
Okay,
Jill.
who's going first?
Jill can go first, ladies first.
I guess my question would be, what harm would it be if we mitigated as much risk as we could by going back to curbside pickup and allowing that minimal computer use, because that is essential. And I think what you're saying, Sandy, is awesome about maybe being able to pick up printing and things like that. That's a fantastic step in the right direction. Is there any harm found in saying, okay, we can't do grab and go anymore, we're just going to go back to curbside? Because that seems like a good compromise, maybe.
And I think you've been big on leading the charge for compromise. And my question would be, how many people do we actually have? Do we have an average on a given day of how many people are using the library? Would it be possible to make staggered appointments? Would that be a hardship on your staff? That's what I thought of in terms of a compromise, because a lot of places are taking appointments. I know Best Buy takes appointments for people to come and shop, but I don't want to put undue hardship on the staff either, but it's just something that
I don't
came
think
to
that's
mind.
necessary quite yet. I think we should just go as it is now.
I think Trustee Warren also had a comment, or was that Trustee Stahl?
I did.
Thank you.
I'm wondering whether or not a facility could be made to allow one of 2 things, or maybe both, I don't know, for those who are especially concerned and those who would like to donate. I remember back when I was working that there was the opportunity for people to donate some of their accrued vacation to people that needed leave. And that might be a possibility to help each other out from, the pool of folks that are there, those that feel that they can donate that time could do so, and it would save the stress.
I don't know whether J.P. Davis or Sandy Whitmire are prepared to address that question.
I'm not in favor of that.
And one other point, I've heard, and I forget whether I heard it online or over the radio or in the print, that California is close to declaring a lockdown. And I think that New York is thinking they're running out of hospital beds and things like that. So I don't know how long Chicago might be in the same.
Those two states
Limbo.
didn't lock down like Illinois did. That's the reason they're in that position right now.
I couldn't
We are
understand.
all in that position right now, all of us. So we need to remember that.
We just hit a really intense milestone this week, so.
So I don't know how long it would be before Governor Pritzker offers some guidelines. I know we're not getting any federally, but locally we, I would imagine, would be told at some point that this was going to take place, and how fast would the library react to such an item? Within 24 hours, the next day, which would, I guess, be the same thing, or would there be a strict compliance with the date given for the lockdown?
Right,
I
well,
guess
let me
it's directed
back
to Sandy.
up there one moment. So we all agree that there's no necessary amendment to the essential services we determined were the essential services in May. I
Yes.
heard that.
I agree.
And we all have agreed, and we all understand what the current library operations entail at this point.
Yes.
I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth.
No.
So
Correct.
the last thing on the table is two things: to give direction to the library staff on how they should proceed. And I think to Rick's comment that the end of the motion might, whatever we decide, might be in effect until further notice from the CDC or the DuPage County of Health or a governor's proclamation. And we also need to determine what type of response we need to provide as a board to this letter. So that's kind of a twofold thing. We need a motion on how the library should continue to operate. And then we need a motion on how we should respond to this letter, if I'm understanding what we need to do. And please correct me if I'm wrong.
So if I may, I just want to respond to the questions that you just asked. So I'm going to start at the bottom and go back to the top. So to Rick's question about the timing of how quickly we would change things if there was an announcement for another stay-at-home order, I would think we would probably comply with whatever date the governor set for that stay-at-home order to start. However, we may close, if there was a stay-at-home order we had to close, we may close sooner to avoid the run on the library that occurred in March. As you may recall, we had a special meeting on a Monday, but that weekend before, starting on Friday, other libraries in the area started closing, and people got word of that, and they came out in droves that weekend. It was a crazy busy time, and certainly that was probably an unsafe condition to be working in. I was here that entire weekend. So depending on the situation at the time, we may abide by whatever date the governor sets, or we may choose to close sooner and without very much notice, so that we can avoid that run on our services. We don't want the building overloaded. We do have capacity limits. So it's likely if we did stay open until the closing happened, I would probably be out in front of the library holding off people waiting to come in. I'm thinking that that's what would happen.
Well, Sandy, can you just clarify, when you say closing, are you talking about going to curbside only? Or are you talking about closing all services?
I'm talking about closing all services.
Okay.
I think if
If
we,
necessary.
right, if the mitigations for retail say that retail is going back to curbside and online only, then we're prepared with a plan to step it back to a curbside or a self-service type pickup. We have a plan for that in place. So we would likely in that instance, the plan was that we would close for at least one full day to reset our services. We have ways we're going to cordon off an area of the library for that. So we do have some things we would have to get into place. We would probably close for at least one day, possibly two to get set up, and then reopen on that day that those new mitigations would start.
Would
But
you
if we had-
also,
Oh, go ahead.
would you also set limits on the number of items an individual could sign out within a certain period of time? Or a family limit, perhaps?
No, no. I will say that we are more than happy to let people check out as much as they like, because the capacity of our shelves is only so much. So right now, our shelves are pretty full because we are not circulating as many items as we had. So there would not be a limit on the number of items, but we would severely reduce the number of people who were allowed into the building at one time. I think we had maybe 4 or 5, and we had them staged in areas to get into the space where they would pick up their materials. And that would be an instance, they would not be allowed to browse our stacks. They could call us, request materials, we would prepare them, put them on a hold shelf area, and then you would come and check them out yourself. Or you could pick them up at curbside, and you would move curbside down to our lower level entrance for very specific time periods each day.
It seems that you would have to also set limits to how many people could be in the facility at a time and allow them to queue out in the open area until they could get in. Otherwise, you'd have a swamping about as soon as people heard, right?
Right. And we actually already have markings, probably not enough for that instance, but we do have markings outside of our main entrance to accommodate that kind of social distancing for gaining entry to the library. We probably have to update that.
I just need for Jackie to know that
Oh, yeah.
Trustee Richardson left the meeting at 6:37 p.m. Sorry.
Okay. So as far as donating approved vacation, that would require board policy. There are also many, I don't know, considerations that would have to be made for that. And we would definitely need to get an attorney involved. And I can't see Jackie, but I can only imagine her shaking her head right now because of the administration that goes into such a plan. We know libraries that have tried that, and it doesn't always work as intended. So that's just something to be aware of.
A redirect then. Is it possible that employees can bank time that they didn't take from a preceding year for the next year? Is that already in place?
For sick leave, yes, the full-timers earn sick leave, and you can accumulate up to 1 year of paid sick leave. We only allow you to take up to 12 weeks in a year. That aligns with the Family Medical Leave Act policy. And then depending on where you're at in terms of your seniority, you can accumulate up to your maximum amount for vacation or for part-timers PTO. And so for our newest employees, it's 3 weeks annually. And then I believe it goes to 4 weeks and 5 weeks if you've been here longer. And I think there are just a few of our employees who've been using their paid time off. Most have allowed an accrual to happen where they've almost hit their maximum accrual. So there may be a couple of people who have run out of their time. but we haven't considered, we have an extremely generous paid time off policy at our library. So honestly, allowing people to roll that over becomes a hardship in terms of scheduling and continuation of operations.
I see. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. As far as using the library by appointment, I think you hit on the piece there that we haven't done that because I think that the staff time involved, we don't have the staff to.
And that's what I
manage.
presumed, but I did want to put it on the table
Right.
as an option.
Right. And then I think the first question was from Jill, if there was any harm in going back to curbside. The only harm that I can see is that the curbside model that we've set up for going back to curbside will not require as many staff as the last curbside model required. So there is a possibility that we would need to furlough staff if we move to that model and we didn't have any additional work for them to do.
Can I ask a question in regards to that? So with going back to curbside, there's no way to set a time limit so that could run indefinitely, say till the end of the fiscal year, say till the end of June?
That would be up to the board. If you wanted to go to that model, that would be entirely up to the board. If you set that date, then that date would probably have to hold firm.
Because I guess my point would be, based on the information or concerns in the letter, we honestly don't know when this could be over with, or when, because I know listening to the reports regarding the vaccine, there's still going to be a limited amount. We still don't necessarily know who's going to get priority to receive it. So it may be a while before you could say that it would be safe or that we could go back to normal.
Well, I don't think it would serve us, Heather, to limit ourselves. I mean, we want to be as available and open to the public as we possibly can be within, safety protocols. It doesn't make sense for us to limit ourselves to a date that's so far out that we have no idea what it's going to look like. We might as well limit ourselves to what the CDC or the DuPage, health department or whatever, guidelines we're using.
Yeah, but I don't think they have a date either.
Right,
but it's coming, and it's coming fairly quickly.
More flexibility. I think we want to have some more flexibility than to go out that far. So in light of the fact that I'm really not interested in furloughing any of the employees, I think that there's enough hardship going on in the world of unemployment as it is. And in relationship to the fact that we're going to be implementing some more other things that Sandy brought up that she brought up earlier. I would like to consider that we at least take the amount of time that a person can be sitting at a computer down to a reasonable amount, whatever that should be. And I would move that the library continue to the current level of service and open hours until the next level of mitigation is implemented.
All right, if I can have a second, and then we can have additional discussion. Can I second something?
Yes.
I'll second that motion. So motion was made by Trustee DeRocher and seconded by Trustee Pika. Essentially, that with modification proposed by Director Whitmer, that we continue the library services. And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, Barbara. I didn't get it all.
I actually wrote down what I said. So we continue the current level of service and open hours until the next level of mitigation is.
And I think that's the essential.
Imposed.
So, discussion from the board of trustees regarding that motion before we bring it to a vote.
I guess my question would be okay, I agree with that, possibly reducing the amount of time, but if somebody needed more time, what would be how would that be handled if somebody needed, say, if we were going to say, do it for a half hour and somebody needed it for 45 minutes or needed it for the full hour, how would that situation be handled?
You're talking about computer use.
Yes, right, because I believe that's what your motion said, that everything else would remain the same essentially, and it's just the computer use that we're talking about modifying. Is that correct?
That's my
Yeah,
understanding.
if that would make sense. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's that many people, but
I was just going to say Cynthia's information and Sandy's information didn't seem to indicate that there were a large number of people looking to be on the computers for longer than 30 minutes. I may have misunderstood though.
Right, and like I said, that's fine, but if somebody needed it for longer for whatever reason, that was my question. How would that situation be handled? I mean, if it's going to be a case by case basis, if it comes up, then again, I have no problem.
I think the staff would, and I can't speak for Sandy, maybe I should just let her speak. Please, would there be accommodations if there was that situation?
I don't think, the reason that we would be reducing the amount of time that someone was on the computer is to reduce the amount of time someone, that's gathering in the library. So that limit would probably be a hard and fast line, and they would have to come back on another day to finish that work. And that would be, I think, a difficult conversation to have with an individual in a particular situation.
Because I guess I'm thinking of, say, students that maybe are trying to process, say, college applications or scholarship applications. Sometimes those take longer. You don't always know what information is going to be required to maybe bring everything, to have it all, be able to boom, 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 fit it all in. But, again, if that is the consensus of the library, then that's the consensus of the library.
Well, that's why I made the suggestion that not the grab and go, but the computers be maybe a reservation basis, that could be mitigated. And then you could have a certain number on
They
them.
already are a reservation basis. Are they not?
Are they?
Originally, they were a reservation basis when we reopened the library and allowed use of the computers. But since that time, there was so little use that it was no longer necessary. In my mind, it was no longer necessary to require a reservation. As Cynthia, I think, mentioned, there's not been a time when all of the computers are in use. And we've actually stepped back. As she said, we've cut the computers in half again, how many are available. So I think that at this point, the issue is a matter of how long people are staying in the library.
Whether it's on the computer or not.
Right, in any case. And it's hard. I mean, I could ask some of the staff to pipe in if anybody cares to, but I think it's really hard to even control how long someone is in the library to browse materials. We technically have a 1 hour time limit. And I do think most people who are here to browse are just stepping in, grabbing what they need and leaving. They're not hanging out. But it would be very difficult. I think we'd have to impose some other type of process to know how long a specific individual has been in the library, other than those who are using the computer.
I think perhaps that's a day-to-day operational activity that could best be decided by the director without a policy being set at a higher level. I don't
So
think we have any difficulty doing that.
we can definitely look at those statistics again and determine, where the line might be for that amount, for that session time limit for the computers. I do think it could be reduced probably a little bit. Because honestly, I don't know what the people who are here using it for 45 minutes to an hour, I don't know what they're using it for. We're not looking over their shoulder. So they could be doing scholarship forms. They could be doing resumes. They could also be playing solitaire. I don't know that. I'm not looking at what they're doing. And none of us should be looking at what they're doing. It's not our job. So
I'm sure it follows some kind of bell-shaped curve and you'll come to some kind of reasonable limits.
Right. And to Heather's point about how long we would stay in a particular mode of operations, most libraries do set a target date. We're going to be in this, they say we're going to be in this mode through maybe 2 weeks from now or a month from now. And that honestly makes life a lot easier on all of us. We know that we're going to be in that mode of operation for a specific amount of time, and then we would revisit it as we approach that end date. But to have an end date that was so far out as the end of the fiscal year, I think that's probably too long of a time, but I could see setting it for 4 weeks or 6 weeks based on what we know at the time we make that decision.
So would it be reasonable to act on Barbara's motion and say revisit at the January board meeting?
I think that Barbara's motion, as she stated it,
We don't need to add that in there.
no, just keep it as is until the next level of mitigation. I think that's perfect. It's a perfect way to state it.
Okay. Does that answer your concerns, Heather?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and Rick and Jill?
Of course,
Now,
yes, it does.
are there any other comments from the board on the motion? Okay, otherwise then I'd like to take a vote. Trustee DeRocher?
Aye.
I gotta figure out who's still here. Trustee Richardson?
No.
Trustee Stahl?
Aye.
Trustee Warren?
Aye.
Trustee Pika also votes aye. And for my benefit, Trustee DeRocher, could you reread the motion that we just passed?
The library continue the current level of service and open hours until the next level of mitigation.
Does that give you the direction you need, Director Whitman?
Yeah, thank you.
Now, one other item, I know it's going long, but I need some information. We need to make a decision on what the response should be for the board. As I see it, we can draft a letter. This board meeting has been sufficient, or of course, other suggestions from the board as how to respond to this letter. So we need a motion, then we can discuss.
I move that draft a response to the letter.
Heather's, and who is going to do that draft? We're just going to put the draft and the response that we determined in it.
Right. I think that's what we need to, I mean, again, I realize that I don't know whether the board should draft it, but I feel like the board should have the input as to what the answer is. And I feel like that's what we haven't come up with. So, I mean,
I'm confused.
Unless I guess then the question falls to Sandy, does she feel that we need to draft a response?
I would ask the letter signers who are on the call. I'm going to ask those of you who are on the call. I think we're only missing one person.
Two, I believe, Lisan and Rizika.
No, for the people who signed the letter.
The people who signed the letter. Rick.
So I'm going to call your names. Julie, do you need a written response from the board? Would you like that? They can do it.
No, I don't think so. I think that just discussing the points was
Good.
adequate.
Okay.
Good.
Jen, do you have any feelings one way or the other?
No, I think the discussion is enough.
Sufficient. Okay, Mandy?
Yeah, I think
She's
the discussion has been enough. I don't think that the board
Okay.
can write anything.
Great. And I know Iman is on the call. I don't know if you can unmute yourself, Iman.
Yeah, I'm
Are you
here.
okay with that?
Serious.
I have a pretty good understanding now, so I don't think that'll be necessary.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we don't need a motion then, or do we?
No, then I think Heather, are you okay with withdrawing your motion?
Oh, that's fine. I just put it out there because I felt we needed a motion to discuss what we were going to do. And so
Okay,
And
Okay, so the folks who wrote the letter are satisfied that our discussion in this meeting this evening is sufficient and the issue was adequately addressed, is what I'm hearing. So, are there any other items that the board wishes to provide informationally or for discussion? The next two on the agenda were a closed session and a discussion resulting from the closed session. I don't think, unless any board member feels that's necessary, we can eliminate those. Crickets, okay, and then if that, what is it?
I'll make that motion if you want to do it.
The last one, the motion to adjourn?
I was thinking the motion to not pursue a closed meeting.
I don't think we need one, do we?
oh, you don't need that. We can just agree that we
Yeah.
don't need a closed session.
No one was interested in going into closed session, so we can just. But I
Okay,
would,
I move that we close. Adjourn.
can I get a second, please?
second, Hessel seconds.
Motion was made by trustee Warren and seconded by trustee Stoll to adjourn the meeting for this evening. Trustee DeRocher,
Aye.
trustee Richardson,
Aye.
trustee Stoll,
Aye.
trustee Warren,
Aye.
trustee Pika also votes aye. Thank you, everyone, for your participation, for your excellent comments. Happy holidays. This meeting is adjourned.